What is the number one tip that you would give to specifically young people? So our target audience is sort of like 16 to, I guess, 30, you would say. What's maybe one key problem that you see specifically with young people in regards to health and fitness? And maybe what's one piece of advice that you would give to them?
So it's not thinking of the future. It's so difficult though, because I remember, I went through like a sort of bodybuilding phase, and I have a lot of respect for bodybuilding, don't get me wrong. But, I just wanted to be the biggest and most muscular guy. At some stage, I went through this thing, and sometimes you've got to make a lot of sacrifices, health sacrifices, to get to those, to that point. And, things like anabolic steroids and, things that, can have a very negative effect on your health. And the point I'm trying to make is that, when you want to achieve these short-term goals, you don't think of what's the long-term repercussions of the decisions I'm making right now. And even in training, youngsters want to progress really quickly. They see their role models on TV, on YouTube, doing whatever, some type of sporting feat, and they're like, I want to be like that, and I'm going to work super hard. And, that unfortunately, they also say to you, you've got to work hard, and you mustn't sleep, and you must do whatever. But in reality, it's not the case. You've got to, progress is not linear. Progress is sort of wavy. And one of the biggest sort of barriers to progress is injuries and health problems. They really make you take a massive step backwards. So if we can progress slightly slower, but we sort of mitigate all the risk of that happening, we end up progressing in the long run far more than we would have ever if we tried to rush things in the beginning. So I really think that youngsters should look at things from a long-term perspective. And I think this can really, do well in other facets of life, like finance and things like that as well. Whenever you take the long-term approach, we're trying to do that with our business. We've been approached by a lot of different brands to work with us. We've done some research we didn't really believe, and we've turned down that money, and that's a short-term, it's hurt us in the short term. But we know in the long term, we're going to keep the trust of our audience. Everything we ever recommend to our audience is something that we really believe in. And over time, our audience will we develop this trust and loyalty and this belief in exercising health, that we have their best interest at heart, and that we're not just trying to serve ourselves. Again, that's a long-term approach. And we miss out a lot in the short term, but that's okay, because ultimately we benefit in the end. So I think when it comes to health, just as difficult as it may be, try and sacrifice short-term gratification and really look at things from a long-term perspective, and work towards. One short little example is, people say to me, people ask me, like, what's the point in like squatting? Why do you need to squat? What's the point in squatting with like hundreds of kilograms on your back? I said to them, okay, well, we're going to get to a point eventually, all of us, where, our strength starts to diminish over time, and it's going to happen. We all hit this sort of peak in our physical capabilities. But if you've built up enough of strength reserve when you're young, and let's say you can squat 100 kilos comfortably with, full arse to the grass type of thing, chances are that when you're in your 70s and 80s, if you're lucky enough to get there, you'll be able to stand up off a chair and support your own body weight. Even if you're 10 kilos overweight at that time, you'll probably be able to support your own body weight without assistance. But if you don't squat, and you've never built up that strength reserve, and you still have the decline from your peak, which is much lower than someone else's peak who's done some type of strength training, chances are at that stage, if you've a couple of kilos overweight or whatever, that you might not even have the strength to support your own body weight. And we see this in the elderly, not being able to get up off a chair by themselves. And it's really sad, because up here they're 100%, but down here they just lose all their abilities. And I often wonder, how is it that some are able to, at 80 years old, function normally, walk up and down stairs, pick things up, no problem, and while others can't. And it's just because they never took that long-term approach, to their health. And so that's something that's really important. And that's why I squat. It's for that. So that hopefully later on in life, if I get there, I'll still be able to do pretty much everything I want to do or I need to do at that time without too much assistance. But it's really difficult. Even I'm almost 30 and I struggle to think that way. For a 16-year-old, I can imagine, and if I recall, it's not always easy to think long-term. But the more you can think long-term, the better it's going to serve you in the long term.